And that's a go. Good. Welcome, everybody, to Saturday Innerstanding. As you all chime in, could you please make sure that you're muted? And we're going to move forward with a wonderful show today. We have a lot to talk about, and we're really getting our flow here and getting our momentum on these Saturday afternoons at 4 p.m. Saturday Innerstanding. This is the spot where we meditate, elevate, and recalibrate the inner verse to deal with the outer world, right? Plenty of going on in the outer world. Well, today we're going skin deep. We're going to take a look at skin conditions and surmise that they are more than skin deep, actually, on many levels, both metaphysical and physical. So we're going to dive into and hopefully share some very pertinent and very kind of not so known information about skin conditions, and also gain some richness from your own experiences. What are you dealing with? Who do you know that carries around some issues with the skin? We're also going to bring up our new earth topic of the day, which is around the question of clothing and fabric. Why is what we wear important? Why is it essential, and how so? We have some really important information and interesting stuff to talk about with that. So we're going to talk about our new earth topic there for probably the last half hour or so. So welcome, everybody. Glad you're coming in. Beautiful to see you on this Saturday afternoon. I heard it's sunny and up and down the East Coast. It sure is here in North Carolina. And it's a great kickoff to the new month of June. Let's take our ceremonial few moments and align ourselves. If you haven't yet today, take that nice first conscious breath, that diaphragmatic breath that aligns you with all that is really in power, in control, in harmony with the universe. As you breathe consciously, you're breathing through the nose, of course, you're slowing your breath down, and you're bringing that breath for the first time maybe down to the belly. Enjoy that first breath of fresh air. It is purely medicinal also when you become conscious and you begin to follow that breath. Whatever you're doing, even if you're moving fast, if you're moving quickly right now, or whether you're sitting in your chair, whatever you're doing, attach the breath to your movement. If you're being still, attach the breath to your stillness. The key is to become conscious of it and to embody the breath as you are performing or not performing, whatever you're doing right now. When we attach the breath to our movements become conscious, and therefore they bring us energy, they energize us, they invigorate us. When we attach the breath to our stillness, they bring us a greater awareness. Our breath brings us a greater awareness and a better regulation of our own hormonal components. So breathing deeper, just a little bit deeply, bringing that breath down to the diaphragm so that when you inhale the breath, the belly slightly expands, and on the exhale, the belly slightly contracts. Your point of focus is the navel, the belly button. You're breathing almost as if you had a tube right from your belly button, bringing that breath all the way down there. When we breathe to the diaphragm, we sway the organs, we massage the liver. The diaphragm lays right on top of the liver and the pancreas. Maybe you can feel that expansion, that sense of expansion as you breathe slowly. As we breathe together, we actually connect on a metaphysical level. We connect on the higher plane. And you connect with your greater existence. You connect with your higher self and all those higher selves and higher beings that are in the astral plane. As we breathe, we remember that the true state of all things, the true state of everything, at the end of the day, is harmony. And when we breathe consciously, when we're able to become still, we become one with that harmony. We integrate ourselves into the harmony. And as we finish up our meditation, let's just remember what's important as we take some final nice, deep, slow breaths, remembering what is important, your inner peace, right? Your inner awareness, not all the crazy things that are happening around you that you're just observing. You're really, at the end of the day, who you are is your awareness and your ability to just be still and observe everything and everyone that you're experiencing. This is all a dream within a dream within a dream, and it's all a big game as well within that dream. So we can't take it too seriously. We can just enjoy the ride, we can enjoy the game, and we can be conscious and aware while we do it. All right, everyone, give thanks, Ashe, as you're kind of bringing yourself back into awareness, or just a reminder that a 10-minute meditation a day will change your life. A 5 or 10-minute meditation, even if you per se don't know how to meditate or you're not good at it, just attempting to sit still, to make sure that your spine is straight and that your posture is decent and your shoulders are back to fit and you're becoming conscious of that breath. If you do that for 10 minutes a day, it's going to mean a huge difference in your life. And as you study, like I studied for many years, as you learn about these energy portals and chakras that are within us and without us, you'll begin to explore your own levels of awareness. And you'll realize that you are much more than what's on the surface. You are much more, and you're connected to something far, far greater. Speaking of much more that's on the surface, let's dive into our topic today, which is the skin, right? Going skin deep today. We're going to look at some skin conditions and different forms of dermatitis, probably that affect many of us on the line here today, certainly affect more and more portion of the population, I would say, as time goes on here. So many interesting tidbits today, and I want to encourage all of you to share and think about what you want to share during our talk today, because I think that this will it's certainly going to bring up some things that have to do with all of us that are going to be really interesting and go just beyond the skin. Let's first talk about the skin, what we call the epidermis, right? And that sort of protective armor that sheds light and protects us, acts as a waterproof barrier, right? Keeping moisture locked in and out. And bacteria and fungus and viruses and allergens and irritants, keeping all those things out, parasites. And it's home to so many different types of cells. We're talking about 1 little square inch of skin is made up of 19 million skin cells. And many of those have different functions as well. So the skin sheds 30,000 skin cells a minute. Also another fun fact there. And of course, the skin accounts for 10 to 15% of your body weight. A lot of people don't realize it is a major organ. All right, 10 to 15% of your body weight. It has its own metabolism. That means it regulates itself. Not quite independently, but certainly circumstantially and different than the in the thyroid. You know, the metabolism that takes place in those glands in our endocrine system. The skin it runs also on a 24-hour cycle, like everything else. Remember last week we talked about the circadian rhythms and these 24-hour cycles that our body goes through. Well, the skin certainly goes through itself, and it's on its own master clock as far as shedding cells and reproducing itself. The skin temperature changes, its permeability changes and increases at night. So at night, the skin is more receptive to topical ingredients. If you're putting something on your skin, it's more absorbed at night. Okay. So a lot of interesting things. Of course, we know the skin is flexible. The skin is emotional, right? We sometimes we assume that the brain holds that title, but the skin is the most sensory of all of the organs. Think about the amount of sensitivity that the skin has to have when we can even just feel that sensation of someone running their hand across the hairs of our skin, how that sensation has an effect on us emotionally. So, just becoming more, I think, appreciative of this barrier. The unsung hero really of the body is the skin, and it has its own microbiome as well. So let's talk about, we're going to go over a couple of conditions here that are really interesting, and we're going to start with albinism or vitiligo, which is the discoloration of the skin, right? Melanocytes are these sort of skin cells that produce melanin, right? Everything with the word mellow comes from the pineal gland. And these melanocytes have sort of disappeared when we talk about conditions related to vitiligo and albinism or people who are albino. The number of melanocytes is pretty much the same in all colors of people. We talk about different races. We all have the same amount of cells. These are the cells that produce melanin, but the production of melatonin is obviously more in darker skinned people, right? So anyway, this discoloration occurs in these conditions, and one of the things that's important, of course, is the connection with vitamin D, and the skin activates vitamin D precursors, inside of it. However, the active vitamin D is only absorbed after it's filtered through the blood with the liver, through the liver and the kidneys. So vitamin D is not produced in the skin, and that becomes something important when we're talking about vitiligo. And exposure to sunlight, of course, increases melanin production through these melanocytes. And the melanocytes are really kind of these immune system. They're very immune system related, and they're very responsive to the environment, especially when we talk about the sun. And the melanin production comes indirectly through these melanocytes. And I've been saying that wrong, I think. I'm sorry. Look at my thing here. So, however, what's interesting is that it's not the skin that informs these melanocytes to produce melanin. It's the actual pineal gland itself. Where's the pineal gland? Of course, it's in the brain. It's in the brain center, and it's right behind the front of the forehead there. And what's interesting is everything that has to do with the production of melanin, or what they call melanogenesis, begins in the pineal gland. Okay, everything that has to do with that. And of course, the pineal gland produces melatonin as well, which helps us sleep. Okay, it's a little bit different, but the same source there. All right. So my studies are more oriented towards the pineal gland and the pituitary, and they are just, if you ever get a chance to dive into the midbrain and sort of what we call the old brain or the reptilian brain, with the glandular system that's in there, the pineal and the pituitary, it's just a fascinating gateway to other worlds, other dimensions, literally. There's so much that we don't know about the pineal gland, B, the immune system, right? And then probably the skin after that. But the pineal gland is truly a mystery when it comes down to it, this producer of melanin. Okay, so how does the pineal gland know how much sun is being received? Because we're talking about vitiligo and albinism. It's not a matter of exposing yourself to the sun, right? The problem there is that you can get as much exposure as you'd like, but your melanocytes are not activating that melanin in the skin. So you could be producing it in the pineal gland, but the melanocytes are not activating it in the skin to have it come through. Is this a sort of a life-threatening condition? No, absolutely not. I worked with one person who had vitiligo, and it was a very much an in-depth case where there was depression and there were a lot of emotional issues. And we talked about, last week we brought up the idea of the very important connection with our emotions and the skin, and we're going to talk more on that and touch upon more of that. But one of the things that we said last week was that the emotional content that we carry is very much related to our autoimmune system. We made the connection that the skin becomes this metaphysical symbol of protecting ourselves. That's the function of the skin. So we always come back to the function of an organ to see, well, what does it mean on the emotional level? Let's apply that on the emotional level. So the skin maybe not being able to produce uniformity in its color may also have to do with the lack of uniformity in the self, right? The lack of integration in the self, the lack of the person's ability to feel whole in themselves. Okay, I mean, vitiligo, of course, you see there'll be mixture of a lack of pigmentation, and then they'll have some brown skin, and it'll be a mix sometimes. In case you're not familiar with it. So maybe this represents on a certain level a lack of integration of the self and the mentality, or the physical with the mental, or the astral with the past lives. There's a lot of discussion that you can have around that, but it is something interesting to talk about since the skin serves all of these functions having to do with protection and identity, right? Look at the psychosocial implications of race and skin color, and having to be torn between acting a certain way, having to do with a certain skin color or culture, or having certain obligations to quote one side or another, right? There's a lot there. So vitiligo, although it's not the melanocytes that are producing what's needed, everything starts in the brain, right? And so the production of melanin starts in the brain as well. And if the brain is experiencing an identity crisis, right, or if it's torn between two sides, or if it's not wholly integrated into a firm self-concept, then we see this sort of possible connection in the physical body. It has to represent itself somewhere, right? So, so then, something to know. We'll talk about some things you can do for vitiligo or albinism. There are some things that can be done where improvements have been made, and I'll touch on those in a little bit. But I wanted to come back to a question and have us really think about the pineal gland here, because there's much that's been said. I mean, we're talking about a gland that the ancient Egyptians, the ancient Kemetic people, revered as this gland being the gateway to God. They literally, and the Egyptians weren't the only ones, the ancient Vedic tradition, all of them point to this gland as being sort of the gland that you exit this world in, right? You literally, when you die, your soul passes through this gland. And not that we're going to focus on that too much, but it's something to ponder, right? A lot of mystery and a lot of sort of esoteric thinking around the gland, which is depicted as the third eye in the chakra system, and depicted as the eye of Horus in the Kemetic system. And if you've seen that slice of the eye, both the left eye and the right eye, that hanging gland right in there is a representation of the pineal gland that the Kemetic peoples knew much about, and in fact did brain surgery, back in those days. That was pretty impressive. I'm sure maybe even just as impressive as some of the things we do today. So we have this very important gland here, and what happens is melanin is produced in this gland, melatonin is produced so that we can enter the dream world, right, and go to sleep. So what else is happening in there? What else could potentially be going on? Well, the gland obviously is a home and a portal to some very important functions. And although it regulates the skin through the production of oils and melanin, how does it do that? What is the connection between the pineal gland and the regulation of the skin? Does anyone want to guess out there? How does the pineal gland regulate the skin through which cranial nerve? We'll make it kind of a quiz here. Does anyone want to guess as which nerve this whole process takes place? And it's a very crucial nerve when it comes down to vision. I'll give you that hint. Anyone want to try it? All right, cranial nerves, not something we learn about in anatomy class in 8th grade, unfortunately. I think we should, it's time. But one of the big ones is our optic nerve. The optic nerve is this band of fibers that is crucial to connecting our sight, what we see, what we experience through visual perception, and our interpretation of that perception in the brain. So if you can picture the pineal gland and the midbrain right in the center of the brain, and then going towards the eyes and the eyeball, in the back of the retina, you have this band of fibers there that connect the eyeball with the midbrain, right, with the pineal gland. It's a very sacred, kind of very important place here. This is the optic nerve. And so what happens is that when we look, our eyes are open, let's say it's a sunny day, you're outside and you're sitting around, you see the glare, you're obviously being exposed to the glare of the sun. Our optic nerve sends a signal to our brain, to the pineal gland, of how much sun our skin is being exposed to, because it can tell, it can regulate, or it can take in that amount of sunlight and then register into the brain. And once it registers it into the pineal gland responds by producing the exact amount of melanin and oils that are needed to regulate the skin in that degree of sun. So if the sun is blazing outside and let's say you're walking around near the equator and it's very hot, your optic nerve is going to tell your pineal gland to produce melanin, and especially produce the oils that are needed in the skin from the melanocytes so that you can protect yourself as much as possible. Now, melanin isn't produced right away. You can't just, I'm snapping my fingers here. Melanin is something that is sort of a delayed response. That's why people get sunburned, because we can't produce it fast enough in the skin. Nonetheless, the process takes place, okay? Now, what happens when we wear sunglasses? If you think about what I just told you, we're out there in the sun and our eyes are telling and registering into our optic nerve and telling our pineal gland how much sunlight we're being exposed to, and the pineal gland is then sending oils and melanin to the skin and the signals down to the melanocytes in the skin. What happens when we wear sunglasses all the time? I'll let you think about it for a second. What are we doing to ourselves? We're creating a disconnect, aren't we? We're creating a disconnect between what we're seeing, how much sun the eyes are registering, and what signal is being sent to the pineal gland to produce those oils on our skin to regulate and protect ourselves. So what happens, everybody, is when we wear these sunglasses, and I've been telling people now for a couple of years at least, when we wear these sunglasses, we're doing ourselves a great disservice. It's really not worth it. I mean, sometimes, you have to wear sunglasses, you're driving or whatever it is, but to wear sunglasses a lot, we're creating that disconnect between the protection of our skin and the regulation of our skin and the amount of sunlight that is hitting it. All right, so we're not creating enough melanin, especially lighter skin or fair skinned people, your body is not able to create enough melanin to protect you from the sun. And therefore, over time, we start seeing these conditions, right? As people have worn sunglasses more and more in the past, 40 years, 50 years, what else have we seen skyrocket and correlate to that incidence? Well, melanoma, haven't we? We're certainly seeing the skin cancer coming. And we talked about this in one of the other shows. The sun is being demonized. I mean, gosh, you turn on the TV and the radio, everyone's talking about the dangers of the sun, and we have more products for the sun. All the sun, no pun intended. But we have shelves of products and different protectors from the sun because now the sun is worse for us. I'm not going to doubt any of that science, but I'm very critical of our culture's critique and our culture's demonization of the sun. It's not the sun that's damaging us. It's our overprotection from the sun, I would say, that's damaging us. And we're fooling ourselves with these sunglasses and all these extra moisturizers and oils. The body knows how to regulate itself. And sure, putting some sunblock on once in a while when you know you're going to be out there for a long period of time, of course, I'd advocate for something like that. But when you're doing that all the time and you're not getting that little bit of exposure, probably based on your skin tone, like I said, you're selling yourself short. I go in the sun. If I could go 10 or 15 minutes a day, I'm probably pretty, I guess, olive skin, but olive to fair, and I can go in the sun directly for a pretty good amount of time each day. I don't wear any sunglasses, and one of the things I always tell people is have a relationship with the sun. The sun is a being. It's not just a big, bright, shiny light bulb up there. The sun is alive. The sun is alive. It's more alive than we are. It is the sum it is the sum, right? The sum, the grand sum. It is the sound. It is the source of life here on earth. Develop a relationship with it. I was with a man in Jamaica who didn't go to school. I don't like to say was uneducated because people are educated in different ways. But he never went to school, but he would tell me and he would remind me that the sun healed him of all of his illness because he used to talk to the sun in the morning. And I believe him. It's just the sun is a tremendous being. So if we're running around protecting ourselves and cursing the sun and trying to get out of the sun all the time, what type of relationship do we have with this massive computer that's in the sky, really the computer that can actually read our energy, which is a whole nother discussion. So anyway, cultivate that relationship with the sun, and therefore you can cultivate a better relationship with your own skin, in your own skin. Okay? Eczema. Eczema is not classified as an autoimmune condition, and oftentimes people associate it with that. But it is a correlative of an overactive immune system. Okay, that means that the immune system is working extra hard, and so many of us, I don't know what the percentages of people that are walking around with eczema, but so many of us are experiencing this these days, and we could probably attribute it to a handful of factors that have changed, and we're going to talk about those factors in a second. Many of them could be environmental, some of them could be emotional, and then of course genetic as well. When we look at the genetics, it becomes very interesting. We'll talk about that in a second. But eczema is really characterized by either blisters or itching or swelling or cracked skin. Sometimes it'll ooze a little bit of moisture. In dark-skinned people and African peoples, it will show up as more of a brown or bumpy type of surface. And don't forget, it's only on the epidermis, so the hypodermis is that layer that's under the top of the skin, and that's where all the fat is stored, okay? But then we're talking about conditions that are only on the top here, the epidermis. And so eczema, it's actually eczema that is the big umbrella term, and that's broken down into different types of dermatitis, what we call dermatitis. So we have, about 6 or 7 forms of dermatitis. most of us are familiar with the allergen or the neurodermatitis or the contact dermatitis that might be from some plants that we're exposed to, or atopic dermatitis. Neurodermatitis is really common in the U.S. About 12% of the population has it. And that is a connection, a direct connection with the brain and the emotional brain especially. We're talking about people that have neurodermatitis always have either OCD or anxiety or depression. They're dealing with a mental issue as well. So the skin is so much connected, everyone, to our brain and our emotions, as well as our gut, as well as our belly. Okay, I would say those two connections are crucial. But let's remember at the end of the day that everything is connected. Nothing exists in a category, in a vacuum. Nothing in our mind, nothing on our body, no physical part of us, no spiritual part of us is not connected with all of the other parts. So if I say something, we say something like the optic nerve. Well, the optic nerve is part of a whole system of operation and functionality within the nervous system. We can't isolate these things, and sometimes with all of the advances that Western medicine has made, when it compartmentalizes our illnesses in our bodies and our systems, it often comes up with a deficiency in understanding or a lacking of understanding the whole condition of what the human being is dealing with, right? So anyway, back to the neurodermatitis. Stress is a real big one here. And we'd probably say that stress is the number one factor when it comes down to all conditions of the skin. If we had to identify something, one thing that is overarching in all of it, it is stress. And that is distress, which is harmful to the body, right? So when we're responding to our environment and it's stressing us out, then that is emotionally a problem. We can be stressed out without being emotionally stressed. That is, we could be experiencing inflammation in our body, and that inflammation maybe contributes to a certain stressful frequency. And oftentimes this will happen due to environmental toxins. So we may be, let's say we're exposed to radiation or we're exposed to heavy metals in our atmosphere, our environment. We don't know that we're being exposed to those things, but our body knows. Right? Our skin knows, and our subconscious knows. So this is where we see the response of the skin, right? So the brain is saying, yeah, I'm fine. I'm walking down the street. I live in a nice neighborhood, and I have trees around me, and my neighbors are nice. Life is good. I'm going fishing. What else do you want from me, right? But let's say, you live near a toxic dump of some sort, and there's a lot of radiation and some environmental toxins around you. It is your skin that's going to respond to that, okay, along with other glands. So the skin becomes distressed. And then from there, you're going to have some endocrine disruption and some nervous system stuff going on. But the skin is the first one that's going to pick that up. All right, so inflammation, my point is that inflammation is a stress of the body. You may not be conscious of it, but it is a stress on the body, and that can definitely be an indicator. Another indicator of what's going on when we talk about why eczema is showing up in the life is the locality. And this is one thing that even my little bout with psoriasis and so many other people that I know, when you're dealing with eczema and psoriasis as well, and even vitiligo, where is it actually occurring? Where's the locality of this on the body? Where is it showing up? Is it a coincidence that it's showing up on the elbows and the knees, right? Is it just random that it shows up on the throat or maybe on the back of the head? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. There is no coincidence. There's only consequence. And the body and our being is such a perfectly aligned organism that every little sign, it'll show us every little sign of where to look for the root cause of our illness or our condition. And when it shows up on the skin, it is right in front of our face, and it's telling us that this part of the body is being affected by this, and there is a puzzle piece to put together from there where you can learn more about why it's showing up there. Okay? So, for example, we might take a look at somebody's face and see that their face is red, or they have some eczema on their face, and know that particularly that's from too much sugar or alcohol. And we talk about some of the direct dietary links of eczema. We're talking about when it shows up on the face, we're looking at too much sugar or too much alcohol, which usually shows up actually on the nose. You'll see somebody, with a really big, puffy red nose that indicates the yeast, from the alcoholism. And so, there's different parts of the body where it'll show up and have different meanings on the hands, right, on the throat, on the elbows. Sometimes it's a matter of where the skin is rubbing against our clothes, and our clothes have a lot to do with it. We're going to talk about that near the end of the program. So our ankles, our elbows, our knees might be places where this shows up just from incidentally rubbing against the fabric that we're wearing. Okay? Oftentimes it shows up on the feet. And when we have eczema on the legs or the feet, then we right away need to look at the kidney and the liver, the kidneys and the liver, because these are the meridians that run down, especially the back of the legs and the sides of the legs. If you have skin issues on the back of your legs and the sides of your legs, you're looking at problems with the kidneys or the liver, because these are the meridians that are running from those organs. So when we see the eczema showing up in different places, we have to connect it with what systems are connected, what systems are active, what energy systems are active in that part of the body, right? Especially when we talk about the meridians and the chakras. We're looking at 14 major meridians that run up and down the body that were identified by Chinese medicine, but they're universally known. And those many points, the many acupressure points serve as kind of symbols and gateways to understanding what's going on there. If you have eczema on the throat, sometimes people will have a really red throat. I actually had this for, I would say, a year or two, and it was coming and going off and on, and I was wondering, I was trying to make some deductions, but if there is eczema on the throat, the one thing that I've found is it's a pre-symptom. A lot of this, I'll talk about pre-symptoms, but it's a pre-symptom of possible hyperthyroidism, directly connected to the thyroid. That is, why is it red there, right? Why is it red? Well, if we think about the energy, if we think about someone expressing themselves, we express ourselves first. The first urge to express ourselves comes from our solar plexus. That's our sense of self, right? We have something to say. And then it passes up into our heart, where we can feel it, where we put the emotion behind this urge, right? We give it a shape, we give it a form, we give it an emotion. And then from there it goes up into the throat, where we can then create description around it and create sounds, right? We'll add the sound element to what we have to express. And so if we have that redness on the throat, or we're dealing with that hyperthyroidism, then oftentimes it's something that needs to be said. There's something that is buried in the heart, buried in the solar plexus, that needs to be articulated. In so many cases of people who have been living with somebody for years, and they're experiencing hyperthyroidism or hypothyroidism, either one, and a lot of it comes down to emotionally not being able to express yourself or say what you want to say to the person that you're with every day. Right? We talked about that a little bit last week. So coming back to the body, coming back to the eczema and all these different locations. If eczema is occurring on reproductive areas, we associate reproductivity, whether it's the nipples or the breasts or the penis or anything like that. What is the connection there? Obviously, right? Our body's telling us that there are some issues around maybe our sexuality. There's some issues around our hormonal secretions that have to do with our reproductive abilities. Maybe issues around our identity or our balancing of the masculine and feminine, right? Because a lot of times eczema will show up in those places, near the vagina, near the vulva, and on the breasts, and for men on the penis as well. So you'll see that there is a definite connection there with an imbalance in the hormones or the reproductive self. Okay, so it's important where it shows up. Eczema doesn't usually cause any pain. Psoriasis will flare up and cause some itching now and then, but eczema isn't really a painful type of dermatitis. It is the immune system overreacting to a small irritant or allergen. Don't forget, the immune system sends out that signal that we need to protect ourselves, and so it produces these extra layers of skin, and therefore we see the condition. One big difference between eczema and psoriasis, probably the main difference, is that psoriasis has edges, and it's very clearly defined, whereas eczema is this sort of, it has this faded look where it fades back into the regular skin, and it's kind of bumpy on darker skinned people, and then kind of red on fair skinned people. So, but the psoriasis itself is a buildup of skin that's reproduced on a patch that has defined edges. So, just getting to know these responses a little bit, or of the immune system and the response is really important. What causes it? Well, we said the immune system is responding to our environment. It's responding to our stress. Maybe it's responding to the need of ourselves to feel more protected in this world. We can look at the social emotional component. Maybe it's a protection against pain or a perceived threat that we have. We're not comfortable being here. We could find people that are walking around amongst us that don't even know, and I don't blame them. I'm not against them. That they don't know why they're here. There's no connection to why they're living. What am I doing here? What is protecting me? What brought me here? If we don't have that grounded sense of self, then there may be a connection here, right, to the immune system and the skin, giving us that extra layer of protection. Maybe we experienced trauma at a young age where we were hurt or abused, right? So there's often, those connections are always very important to make, everybody. I'm sure you will all agree, but it goes beyond that. Of course, when we look genetically, you're more likely to have eczema if there's a history of eczema or dermatitis in your family. Genes are important. You're also at a higher risk if there's a history of asthma or hay fever or allergies, allergies to pollen or pet hair or foods. All of that could trigger an allergic reaction. Trying to figure out the cause of your skin issue, the eczema or the psoriasis, it could be a lifelong journey. It could be a lifelong journey. It can be your teacher, as any condition or any ailment that you have to figure out. It ends up being your life teacher, and a lot of people don't like to hear that, especially when we talk about life-threatening illnesses. But these illnesses are showing us what we need to work on in this lifetime. So in this case, genetic mutations. But interestingly enough, we talk about psoriasis, and the psoriasis that I found out runs a little bit in my family, even with my cousins. And when you study the psoriasis in depth, you find out that it skips a generation. If somebody has psoriasis, usually their grandparents have it. If you don't, just a quick check-in, everyone. If you don't mind going on mute, if you're coming into the meeting, just please put yourself on mute. I appreciate it. So, interestingly enough, hello, sir. Is that Mike or whoever? Would you mind putting yourself on mute, sir? Appreciate that. Thank you. Appreciate it. So we're talking about the genes, and we talk about these skin conditions. Everyone, in my own family, I did some research and I found out through talking, especially to the older people, to the elders, that when they came from Europe, they came from Southern Europe and a little bit from Eastern Europe. There was no incidence of psoriasis or eczema. Nobody could remember anybody having any, at least, the older people who came over on the boat. And then all of a sudden this kind of showed up in America. At least that's the research that we found out in my family. And that was interesting to me, and I started putting some connections together, and I started to do some more research, and I found out that there's a strong connection between psoriasis and the amount of cadmium and arsenic and mercury that we're exposed to. And of course, ironically enough, I'm sure we all have ancestors and people before us that worked in the factories and worked in environmental hazardous conditions. My own people worked in the factories and the steel mills, and they were exposed to very high levels of cadmium and arsenic and other very serious heavy metals, mercury. And although they might not have experienced the psoriasis in their lifetime, that experience for them went into the genetic pool of their children, right? That's how the genetic predispositions begin, really. Someone might experience something in some lifetime and then have children, and it may show up in their children or in their grandchildren based on what they experience because of the delayed response. So the genes are really interesting like that. And I found that although I'm not a geneticist, I'm not trained as a geneticist, there's definitely an important connection there with the genes. And what your grandparents or your parents were exposed to when they were growing up can lead you down some pretty interesting rabbit holes, all right? But I would say for the most part, look at your own emotional triggers, look at your own environment, your exposure to smoke, to air pollutants, to harsh soaps, to very difficult fabrics, which we're going to talk about in a second, a lot of skincare products. I'd say, everybody, all of this all these moisturizers that we're putting on our skin constantly are doing more harm than good. I think that all of these chemicals that are in these moisturizers are definitely not well received by the skin. All right, so I would stay away from those altogether unless you're going to use something that is inherently raw and biologically and organic and biologically sound and not altered too much, because the body responds to chemicals as it responds to bacteria. And I'm going to talk about that in a second. So let's talk a little bit about treatments. But first, before I get into the treatments, and this should be fairly interesting. Does anyone have any stories that they'd like to share or questions so far about any of these that don't really have to do with the treatments? Because I will talk about those here in a second. Anyone have any stories of skin issues that they can maybe contribute to the conversation or they want to share? All right. So more and more, we see these triggers in the...
I have my hand raised. Hello.
Hello. Yes, I'm sorry. There you are. Please.
Okay. Hello, everyone. This is Sienna from Nigeria. So before we go into the treatments, I was just going to ask some of the ailments affecting the skin. Would you consider keloids as one of them?
Would I consider what? Could you say that one more time, Sienna?
Keloids. That's Keloids. Keloids.
Oh, keloids.
Yeah.
The nodules. I'm not familiar. I'm not so much familiar with those. No, Sienna, I'm not sure. I'm not familiar with those at all. All right. As far as, it's a great question. I just know that they're little nodules and that they grow the skin and that they could, you know, reflect an injury, but I'm not very familiar with those.
Okay. I just wanted to mention that before we went into treatments and all of that, if that was
Yeah.
part of the discussion.
Uh,
Okay.
uh, the keloids aren't as prevalent, at least here in America. I don't know if there's other places where they're big, but I'm glad you brought it up because all of these, including the keloids, sometimes are perceived as being contagious conditions, but they're not. When we're talking about these conditions, they're not really contagious. They're solely based on the individual's acquisition. So, anybody else? Anything else out there? All right, let's.
Yes.
Please.
Just one comment. When you were sharing about the importance of getting as much direct sunlight as you possibly can, without causing some serious difficulties. One thing that I've learned, not only with me personally, but with others, is that if a person, in terms of wearing sunglasses, that if a person is wearing contact lenses, the sunglasses are an important factor because the brightness and the warmth and the glare of the sun could have an impact on the functioning of the lenses, on the eyes, and so forth. So just
Great point. Great point. Thank you, Doctor. Yeah, that's something that that isn't considered when wearing sunglasses. So that is true. So a lot of reasons there why we could put them on. Appreciate that. Anybody else like to chime in? All right, let's talk about some treatment here. And speaking of the sun, when you talk about the UVA rays that the sun is giving off, and making sure that we acquire the good UVA rays to help absorb those rays. For the melanocytes we talked about earlier, those cells in the skin that actually produce the melanin in the skin, to help bring in those UVA rays for people that have vitiligo or skin discoloration, there's a product called Ceralin, and Ceralin seems to be, for when I've run into it a couple of times, seems to be the prime treatment for vitiligo. And what that does, it's a natural product. It's plant-based, and for the most part, and it triggers it allows the UVA rays to be properly absorbed in balance, so that the melanocytes are able to read and then produce the melanin that's necessary. Of course, the Ceralin is a little bit expensive, and it has to be applied regularly with baths as well, and you have to make sure that you also get the sunlight that you need so that it's activated. For all skin conditions, everyone, we talk about stress being very important. Right away, I'm just going to say that a regular practice of meditation or meditative movement or conscious movement, yoga, soft martial arts, exercise is good, usually. I mean, I'm being very general right now. You can always overdo it as well, but making sure that you're sweating a little bit every day. But that those yogic and meditative type exercises are crucial to managing stress, and therefore managing the skin and managing the response of the immune system. I couldn't emphasize it enough. There are particular yogic and meditative exercises that I advocate and utilize, and something I like to call medical meditation, mainly for the skin, with the lymphatic system, of course, that cleans the blood, and the autoimmune issues that are all connected to the skin. We use something called the bellows breath, which is an interesting, very deep and very active breath. Also the 1 minute breath and the breath of fire. But only practice those if you're learning from someone who knows about them, who has experience with them, but they are tremendously beneficial. The breath and the utilizing of different forms of breath work can really eradicate stress from your life. I could honestly say that the breathing exercises can eradicate stress from your life. That is, allow you to respond to your world, your environment, totally differently than what you're triggered to do. Turning the amygdala of the brain, turning it down a little bit and allowing more serotonin and oxytocin and all the other good chemicals to be present from the medical meditation. So also, you want to make sure that you stay away from the three big ones. The three big ones for the skin are alcohol, processed sugar, and gluten. Okay, those are the three big ones. You can't expect any psoriasis to go away or stay away if you're chomping on that nice big loaf of Italian bread every Sunday morning with your eggs and then having waffles. Unfortunately, you have your skin condition to deal with, and you're going to have to regulate the diet. It's just something that will help you automatically, staying away from a lot of trans fats and gluten-related products, taking in your good fair share of fruits and vegetables, raw, organic. Make sure that they're not sprayed too much if possible, because the pesticides are also linked to the skin conditions. And avoiding those processed foods, chips, even though they're gluten-free, not good for you. Processed sugar, not good for you at all when it comes down to skin conditions, because we're talking about yeast, right? Or alcohol is a yeast, but we're talking about candida, all right? And candida, the nature of candida, especially on the skin, when we talk about the skin surface, is to spread. So those are the three big ones. Of course, you can supplement with vitamin A, vitamin E. Zinc is very good. Primarily, when we talk about, I would say the best supplement, one of the best supplements is quercetin with a Q, Quercetin. It's a great antimicrobial, antioxidant, antihistamine, and gives great relief for allergens. If your skin issues are a response to allergens, then quercetin is really going to help you. Another big one is people oftentimes skin will respond to jewelry. So you have to watch what type of jewelry you wear. A lot of the jewelry has nickel in it, the element nickel, and the nickel is highly toxic, and it gets into the blood. And so you have to keep your lymphatic system clean and rub the body, brush the body in the morning, brush off those dead skin cells and brush toward the heart, and keep that blood clean by brushing the body, and then rub the body with oil every day. We rub the body with a little bit of coconut oil or neem. You could do a combination of coconut, neem, and shea butter, but you're rubbing good oils into the body, and you're eating good oils like avocado oil, olive oil, virgin olive oil, and coconut oil, right? How we oil the body is crucial. In the morning, if you have skin issues, I'd say you cannot go wrong by drinking cloves, turmeric, and ginger. Those are the three big ones for me I've experienced for the last 20, 25 years. Those three you can really never have too much of. I mean, if you have too many cloves, you're going to be sitting on the toilet a little bit longer. But other than that, ginger, cloves. I used to know cab drivers that would drive. It was a Chinese man that I knew in South Philly, and he used to eat ginger all day. He'd just eat it like it was like a candy bar, you know, he would just eat it and chew on it all day. He was never sick, never got sick. And of course, he learned that in China. But these are herbs that will really help you, especially in the morning if you take them. Now, you can add in intermittent cycles of herbs like burdock, for example, where you would take for about a week and a half or 2 weeks, and then you take yourself off of that cycle. As long as you don't notice any major changes or pains, in the liver or anything, then you add in some blood cleaners like that. Activated charcoal would be another one, where you just use it for a little while, maybe take a few days or a week and see how you respond to it. But the activated charcoal will literally absorb the toxins, absorb the heavy metals in the body, and is excellent. All right. And finally, I have a good one for the heavy metals, which are really associated with the skin, and that is cilantro. Cilantro is a great herb, especially if you can get it fresh, add it to your salads. It will take out a lot of those heavy metals that are stored in the blood. Moving forward here, um, we're going to hone in on one thing here, especially with the psoriasis, and psoriasis being a condition that people struggle with for years. They don't know what it is. You could take baths, you could take a bath with a couple of drops of tea tree oil, and probably triple or quadruple the amount of lavender oil, and make sure that the skin is oiled, and that will help the psoriasis over time. I have an interesting finding from the NIH. There was a recent study from the NIH that identified the bacteria that's present in psoriasis. And if you know one thing about holistic health, oftentimes you have to fight fire with fire. So in this case, you can fight bacteria with bacteria. We don't always need to have chemicals to fight off bacteria, everybody. The proper bacteria can be eradicated, or can eradicate the bad bacteria when we're dealing with some sort of infection like that. All right, so there's 3 major strands, and I can send these out over email if you do want to get in touch. Before I announce them, let me just give you that email and remind you how to get in touch. My email is techseca, TECHSECA23 @gmail.com. You could reach out for any reason whatsoever, even if you just want to say you like the show, you can't stand the show, I talk too much about nothing, whatever you want to say, or you want to partake in a consult. Speaking of which, everything I do is donation-based, including consultations, nutrition plans, detox massage. My organization is called Innerstanding. It's a faith-based organization through which we have a couple of members that are, along with me, seeking to utilize the true innate technology within each one of us that Creator endowed us with to change ourselves and therefore inspire change in our communities, right? So anyway, fighting bacteria with bacteria, when we look at the bacteria that's in psoriasis, or the actual strands of infection, we have the staph, and we have the strep that are both found. We both have heard of staph infections and strep infections. I'm not even going to say the Latin word for those, but the staph and the strep are found in the psoriasis. Staphylococcus and streptococcus, I believe, are the pronunciations. But then we also have 2 other ones. Corynebacterium is found in psoriasis, and Propionibacterium is found as well. So there are 4 strands of bacteria that are found in psoriasis that have been identified by the NIH. Now, incidentally, and interesting enough, what bacteria particularly functions to counteract those strands we can find in our probiotics. So our probiotics come in and they directly, if you will, vanquish or address those bacteria that I just mentioned, and particular strands. Isn't that the beauty of nature, is that we have, just as we have the imbalance, just as we have the invasion or the invasive species, we also have the cure for it. We have the exact remedy for it that's provided in our strands of probiotics. And those strands of probiotics are 3 forms of lactobacillus. Some of you that might be familiar with your probiotic strands, it's so important if you're studying holistic health or studying your own health to understand the different strands of bacteria in the probiotics. There's millions of cultures, there's millions of strands, of course, but some of the major ones are bifido and lactobacillus. And so lactobacillus, there are 3 strands that address all of those bacteria that are dominant, the dominant genera of bacteria in psoriasis, and they are lactobacillus and bifidobacteria. Okay, if you want the particulars of those, that is, you want the specific strand, I will send those to you in an email. Okay, so just get in touch. I'll be glad to send those off. I'm not going to get into the exact pronunciation and spelling because they're pretty, they're big words. We're talking about probiotics. We're talking about words that are just too big. Anyway, let's finish up. We're talking about the skin here. Does anyone have any final reflections before we dive very briefly into what we wear, our clothes and our fabrics? Anyone have any reflections on the skin or any further questions about dermatitis, psoriasis, eczema, or vitiligo? Okay, moving forward, everyone. Why is what we wear important? Why is it important? Is it for looks, right? We're always worried about it. I think style became a thing probably pretty recent in human history, but we always think about how we look instead of more so what exactly we're putting on top of our body. What fabric are we resting right next to this very important skin organ that we talked about? And oftentimes it goes so overlooked, but it has become such a crucial part of the functioning of our skin as fabrics have changed over the years. What is the implication here, right? Well, the big one is this. Everything that we wear, every fabric that we sleep in, right? Our pillowcase, every blanket that we have, every comforter that we put on our skin is vibrating or resonating at a certain frequency. Right? We always talk about frequency. Frequency is the sound. It is the sun. It is crucial to understanding energetic healing and holistic medicine on an energetic level. So all of these fabrics, whether they're linens or polyester, wool or cotton, all of them are resonating at different frequencies. And we actually have the megahertz for most of these substances, right, for most of these fabrics. And I can tell you that the human body, the resonance of the human body in general, now this is not for everybody, but the resonance of the human body is about 1,000 megahertz in my understanding. And that matches the exact resonance of 100% organic cotton. All right, that matches our frequency. So if you're wearing 100% organic cotton, if you have it around you in your bed, etc., I think you're right where you need to be, and you have nothing really to think about. However, if you are exposing yourself to these synthetic fabrics constantly, especially even while you're sleeping, check your pillowcase, check your clothes that you wear regularly, your underwear. If it has the rayon, the nylon, the polyester, all of those that have the negative charge, the synthetic fabrics, they're actually attracting EMFs. Okay, energetically, they attract electric and magnetic fields that represent radiation. Okay, you're attracting radiation to your skin when you're wearing these, and therefore they are really disruptive when we talk about the endocrine system and the skin. Eventually, the skin, right? To give you the idea of the numbers here, and this is from a YouTube source, so I didn't double check on this. So, but according to this source that I found, the frequency of the megahertz of the synthetic fabrics is around 200 per average. Rayon and nylon being the worst, and polyester being not as bad, but polyester is still nothing that you want to wear regularly. But those are around 200 megahertz. Your body is around 1,000 megahertz. So what if you're doing all the things in your life to help protect you and help keep yourself balanced and well, but you're putting on every day, you're putting on this low frequency, high density fabric that is sucking your energy and blocking the ability for you to absorb other energies around you with these low frequencies. what is the effect of that, right? It has to show up somewhere. Maybe it's showing up in the fact that you're not sleeping well, right? Because you're sleeping in all polyester or synthetic fabrics. Maybe you just don't feel the energy that you always have, or you're not sure if your energetic levels are fluctuating because of what you're wearing. It's very possible. To give you an idea, what is the best thing we can wear? Well, it seems like linen, hands down, was the original best fabric that human beings could wear, even better than 100% cotton. Linen has the highest frequency at about 5,000 megahertz. You're wearing linen, you're actually wearing a positively charged fabric, and you're just beaming and gleaming when you're wearing that linen. And wow, didn't all the people of very indigenous and traditional cultures, what they were known to wear that linen, which of course is made from flax. Linen is from the flax plant, and along with hemp as well, has a very high resonance to it. Now, a little discrepancy. You don't want to wear, a little precautionary note, you don't want to wear linen and wool together. Although wool is not a detrimental fabric as far as synthetic, it actually carries a high frequency as well. It could be really, difficult if you're not used to wearing wool. The skin could be sensitive to it just based off of the material. But the frequency of wool is very high, right, if you can tolerate it. Linen is a lot more comfortable, of course, made from flax. It has the highest frequency. I just recently bought some linen bed sheets for the first time in my 40-some years of life, and I'm going to be sleeping in those hopefully by next week. I'll let you all know if I start levitating or dreaming of who knows what, but I'll see how it goes. But I think it's important, and if you're willing to put down the funds for it, I think it's a worthwhile investment. Think about how many hours we sleep in our lives, and what we're sleeping against, right? What are we covering our bodies with? This synthetic material for 8 hours a night has to take its toll on our health, right? They've connected some of these fabrics with, being endocrine disruptors, and there's big causes of localized skin conditions and rashes, psoriasis, sores, and also restless leg syndrome. I would say it definitely contributes to stress and insomnia, just based on mere universal law. If you're next to something that's vibrating at such a lower rate than you are, you're taking on that vibration. You're taking on that frequency. Going that far, I also want to mention one thing for you ladies out there, and especially this new generation, the younger generation coming up, maybe of men as well, but wearing these tight, skin-tight clothes around your body, especially if they're synthetic, is problematic. It's problematic. And one of the things that has just come out recently is that it's causing yeast infections in young women who are wearing all these tight pants every day. Like it's just a normal kind of piece of clothing to wear, and it's causing problems. Of course, it's constricting, it's restrictive, and it is suffocating your skin and suffocating your blood flow as well, and your lymph. Not to mention anything that's going on in the reproductive area that's being constricted as well, right? We know, we've heard of the problems with wearing bras and tight underwear and tight clothes like this. So that's something also to be taken into consideration, especially if it's synthetic, right? Can you imagine? You're constricting your body with plastic. You're literally, we're walking around we're in plastic wrap. We're walking around in plastic wrap, and we're wondering why we don't feel good. There has to be implications there, So keep in mind your shoes, everything that you're putting on. I don't want to create a situation here where we have, where we become obsessed about our health and what we're wearing, and next thing you know, we're advocating walking around with linen slippers. But take those shoes off once in a while and put those bare feet in the soil, right? That does wonders for all the systems of the body. And talk about the skin and the lymph, draining the lymph from the body, draining those toxins from the blood. It occurs just by earthing and grounding those feet in the earth barefoot on a regular basis. It's a tremendous practice for you because, after all, everybody, our ancestors didn't walk around with these rubber soles on the bottom of their feet all day. And then to add concrete, a layer of concrete under that, cutting them off from all of the ions coming from the earth and all of those wonderful minerals that are coming up from the soil. We're blocking ourselves from that stuff. So it's time to break up those concrete pavement and parking lots around you and put our feet in the dirt and reclaim what Creator has created for us, our home, our mother, ground ourselves in that biological miracle that's beneath us, right? And especially exposing ourselves to more better clothing and better materials that we can wear. Like I said, linen is the ideal. 100% organic cotton is the same frequency of most human beings in that 1,000 range, and so you can look for that one as well. Okay, so just a little New Earth tidbit there. Don't forget, every time we talk about this New Earth, a New Earth topic, it's just something we need to maybe think about in the future, right? Something that's going on that maybe we don't hear enough about it, but it's good to bring it up, right? So that's why. Anyone have anything to say about the fabrics? Anyone have anything to offer as far as the clothing or what we're wearing or how it affects us? Any experiences out
Hey, Eric, can you hear me?
there? Yes, ma'am. Well, go ahead.
So I'll start with the fabric. I'm really crying. You just don't see it because I have so much polyester, and I know I have to get rid of it. I do laundry so well. I ironed maybe 2 times in the last 12 years because I do great laundry. It's a permanent press. But along with the polyester and the bad frequency, the permanent press is actually formaldehyde.
Yeah.
Formaldehyde. That's why when the clothing goes into the dryer, it knocks out the wrinkles like it knocks out the wrinkles in your face when you use it with makeup because there's formaldehyde in makeup as well.
Oh, so, wow. Great point.
Yeah. So I am ridding my wardrobe of polyester. Thank you for sharing. I mean, along with organic cotton, I didn't know about the frequency of linen, which I love linen. I have a couple of pieces, so I guess I'll be filling up on linen. I'm allergic to wool, so I can't use wool. And also being allergic to wool, I cannot use lanolin-based products. I don't know if people realize that lanolin comes from sheep. So
lanolin, right. Mm-hmm.
You might have cosmetics or hair grease or even A&D ointment that's vitamin A and vitamin D, but the base is lanolin. So if you have an allergy to wool, you most likely have an allergy to the lanolin as well.
Great point.
And so I thank you for, of course, all the information. I look forward to this since last week. Keep doing what you're doing. Please, thank you.
Appreciate you very much, Evadene. And guess what? You know, you remind me of a confession that I have to make, everyone. When I started reading up on the linens, I went right into my closet. I got one of the only linen shirts that I have, and I wrapped it around my pillowcase. And right now, I've been sleeping with my shirt wrapped around my pillowcase because when I looked at my original pillowcase, it was mostly polyester. It was 60% polyester. And I said, no, you got to go. So that was a change I made. And I'm waiting for my new linens in the mail. Hopefully they come soon. I'm excited about them. Boy, you know you're getting older when you're waiting. You know you're getting older when you're excited about your linens coming in the mail.
Listen, old is the goal. And so,
sure
you know, whatever we can get that excites us, that's a great thing. But I'm going to share with you, wherever you have purchased the linen sheets from, see if there is a referral code. and then share that referral code with us, because I believe in referral codes. Forgive me. But
good point.
Then you share that with us. And
yeah.
I'm just going to suggest you gave out your email address that everyone who's listening, whether you're listening live or you're listening on the Grown Folks Talking YouTube, send Eric an email. Send him an email and let him know you're a listener, and then who knows what comes out of that. I'm just saying, Thank you, Eric. What is silk? Is silk also polyester?
Oh, I appreciate that very much. Also, everybody, I have a couple of good videos up on YouTube, and I'll be putting these recordings up as well. You can look at Inner Technology 7149. That's Inner Technology 749 is my channel. On YouTube, you can subscribe, and I have some good medical meditation videos up there and some good things you can follow. Also, you can get this recording up there starting next week. So I appreciate the plug, Ivadane. And Ivadane also has her show that's going to be airing independently. Ivadane, I'll give you a moment if you want to throw in your plug for your own show, which I know is a very good one.
Thank you. I appreciate that. But I also want you to repeat your YouTube. You said it so fast, I didn't get the numbers. Repeat that first, please.
Yeah, the YouTube channel is Inner Technology, INNER Technology 7149. Right after the Y in technology is 7149. And you'll see a little symbol there. It's green, and there's a sun around it. And my motto is inquire within, inquire within. So you'll see some of my videos show up under Inner Technology. Give thanks.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you for that. And so my show, Ivadane, with Company Talk, worth listening to, is journeying here, there, and everywhere. But to know where I'm going to be, go to like, share, subscribe, and ring, like ringing the bell. Like, share, subscribe, ring.com. Ring that bell when you get there. That is my YouTube, but don't go to YouTube. Just sort of like, share, subscribe, ring.com. Ring that bell. Subscribe and ring the bell, and whenever I'm anywhere I am, you will know. Thank you very much, Eric.
Right.
I appreciate you.
Thank you. Amen. Ashe. Namaste. All of it. Everybody, next week, before we exit here, we're going to talk about and get down to the importance of frequency and sound, and really understand a little bit more about, and I think it's time. I think a lot of us are ready to really understand the importance of frequency and how it shows up, and how to understand the language of frequency, not only the language of frequency and sound, but how the language that we use, that is the words, the choices of words, the sounds, the etymology that we use, how it reflects who we are, and also how it creates resonance in our body, how it creates our reality. The words that we use literally create the reality that we live because of the frequency of those words, the frequency of those sounds. So we'll be talking a little bit about that science next week. We'll be talking a lot about it, hopefully. And for our new Earth topic next week, we're going to be talking about public transportation and vehicle use in the future, and where that's all going, and what may be to look forward to as far as things getting better or worse in that area. All right, so we have a great show next week. I'm going to share a couple of mantras for healing, and looking forward to that one. Of course, we have the Forrest Nance show that's coming up next at 6 o'clock. You could stay on for that one. Conscious talk there, and always a fascinating and interesting, very transparent show from Forrest Nance that's coming on at 6 o'clock tonight. And I'm just going to throw out the bullhorn there for anybody who wants to give us a shout, say hi, or say anything. I really want to send out my embrace to all of you, and I give thanks for all of you being present here today. Anybody, any final words out there?
Yes, Eric.
Yes, ma'am. Good to hear from you. Please.
Thank you. This is Carol Lucille from the Pink Sofa Talk. And it's just, well, to think about the fabric and the vibration of the fabric. I don't know. I have a mixture. I do have several pieces of linen, but I like my little fuzzy blankets. I love my little fuzzy blankets. They're so warm.
I know. I agree, Carolyn. I just looked at one of my favorite blankets, and I read the tag, and it was not good news. And I don't think I could part with it either. I'm willing to go the distance with that one. I get it. How about the pink sofa? Is that linen?
Oh, the pink sofa is the pink sofa is cotton.
There you go. All right. Well, we're in good shape.
And so that's good.
All right. Good places.
Thank you. Good topic and discussion.
I appreciate you. Thank you very much, Carolyn.
Mic check.
Yes, sir. You're in. Thank you, brother.
Thank you, Sister Carol. That was a beautiful presentation, brother. I'm still eating pistachios while you was talking. And I would just like to say that fabric is very important, especially in the summer. I'm a cotton man myself, but a lot of people just don't like to go. And I want to ask you something, brother. I remember the sister earlier was talking about keloids. That would be an interesting topic of research, because about 5 years ago, I did a little experimentation on food peroxide, and it has its place. And what happened was, I got a little carried away, brother. And
I understand.
And things were looking to escape in my body. And one day I'm in the shower, and this keloid popped up. I was like, what? And I was like, oh, it's still here. I'm not going to nobody cut it off. That's a part of me, like Al Capone with the scar, but I ain't Al Capone. But, so with that being said, my dear brother, that would be very interesting, because there has to be a natural way for it maybe to go back in the skin. And just to share with the listening audience, I started at 6 o'clock. Brother, I was ripping and running over there. I wanted to eat my salad before 6, but I'm about to do just 24 hours with the water fast, and then work my way up to 3. And hopefully Miss Carol will join me. So with that being said, the hemp. I heard that they have, I know that they have, like, they sell the hemp T-shirts. They're a little pricey, but that's okay. You only live once.
Right.
And
right.
What about your take on the hemp material?
I would say that hemp is in the same class as linen as far as the frequency, because it's coming from that biological plant-based material. Linen is vibrating at such a high resonance because of the flax, and I would say the hemp is the same. Maybe not as comfortable, but absolutely, yeah, I would say that absolutely, and not having. Just only basing my opinion off of what we see presented in the evidence of these different synthetic fabrics and the ones that are organic, But I think that hemp would be good, yeah, absolutely.
I know it's durable, because I was like, wait a minute, hemp, they use that to make bricks? I was like, what?
Everything.
Yeah.
You can eat it. You eat it. You make bricks with it. You make clothes with it. I mean, what an incredible substance, just absolutely incredible plant. The bamboo and the hemp. People wear bamboo as well, I've heard. And you can get that.
In fact,
I'm not sure the frequency of it. Yeah.
Yeah, they also make bamboo mattresses, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, absolutely.
Bamboo mattress you could put. Yeah. I wanted to try that.
Yeah,
the more we could.
Oh, somebody got excited. Okay, good.
When you think about these natural things that have been on this earth and a part of this earth since forever, why do you think the pyramids and those buildings and things that still stand years are standing? They're made with those materials that are natural to the earth, and they are long lasting, and
Yeah, unaltered, really unaltered raw materials is which shows is something that lasts. It's made to last. Everything that's not altered, it's by man. So in general, we know that certain things are very beneficial that man has come up with and created adaptations with. But yeah, it's a good point. It's a very good point.
It is.
And
it is.
All right.
About keloids.
Yeah.
Understanding of keloids is a keloid occurs when there's a cut or an opening in the skin, and like the skin layers over several times when it's in the healing process. So it's a thickening because the skin layers over that cut or something like skin without a cut or something.
Okay, so it's a key, and I'm not familiar with the keloids. I've heard of them. Is it the same as what they would call the hypertrophic scar? The regular scar, or it's a little bit different?
Scar family, they say
it's a scar, it's a hyper scar.
And I had a thyroid surgery, and my doctor asked me, "Do you keloid?" Because African Americans keloid more than others.
Okay.
And so I said, "Not to my knowledge."
I
see. There's something the way he would have stitched the cut if I told him that I keloid.
Okay. Yeah. Well, that's something to certainly learn more about. And I'm just looking it up now, and I'm seeing that I need to do some more studying and research and on these keloids for sure. It's interesting. I appreciate that, everybody.
And
I'm always learning. I'm always learning myself.
And Eric, just to share with Sister Carol, an episode of Brother Abdul, he talked about where his mother had keloids, and she got them removed, and what they do is they clamp it. All right, and I asked him, did your mother have a reoccurrence? He said, no, it never came back.
Wow. Yeah, I see. It's most common in people with brown or black skin.
Clamping.
The greatness of melanin. He talked about it.
Yeah. Well,
that's all that is, brother.
Yeah, that's right. There's a price to pay, I guess, right?
Yes, and just to share with you, brother, because I know you always, we like sponges, me and you and Ms. Carol and some of my other colleagues. In fact, we had a 22-year-old sister that was deep. She comes on every Saturday at 12, brother. I meant to, give you a heads up. She was talking about, she might be on, and check out her name, Your Highness, okay? She came on at 12. 22. I wish I was doing what she did when I was 22, because I was clubbing back in the day at 22. But she was wonderful today, brother. She came on for an hour.
Yeah.
Good. She's on every Saturday, so I'll give you a notification. But just to let you know, my dear brother, on my show, I have Dr. Thurston on, and he traveled with Sabi for quite some time, a dear friend of his. And I just in the mail about 15 minutes ago got a detox that I ordered from the brother. So, to be continued. And as our dear brother, our resident naturopath, Rashad, will be on a little later on, if this brother don't take it to the 2-hour limit, So thank you, brother.
All right. Well, much appreciated. Appreciate that plug. And that sounds like an interesting show. I might tune into that one while I make my little pizza here, my cauliflower crust, which I'm looking forward to. And yeah, things have changed for us, that's for sure. When I was 22, I was certainly not thinking about linens or skin conditions or anything like this. But this younger generation, those who are getting the importance of developing the consciousness and striving for excellence, they are way ahead of the game. So I'll be happy to listen to somebody, whether they're 22 or 82. We're all learning from each other. That's the best way that we can do this. And guys, Intertechnology, everything that I do is based on that premise. It's about learning from each other, and it's about facilitating each other's healing. And because when we facilitate our own healing, when we do the work that we have to do internally, when we explore our own inner verse and come to understand ourselves as a being, then we can help heal this planet. We can help heal our communities. We can heal each other, right? So that's what the theory is. And I am hopeful. I'm beyond hopeful. I know it's happening. I see it. The undertone, the undercurrent, if you will, is active, and we are moving forward. Consciousness is expanding. We're fighting back, if you will. We're resisting the things that we're waking up to, the things that are have been holding us down and back for so long. And humanity, I believe, is on the brink of a great consciousness and a great awakening. So let us move forth, right, with blessings, and let us move forth hand in hand, heart to heart. And I hope that your hand and your heart are with mine next week at 4 p.m. again. We're doing this every week. Someone said, hey, I don't know how you could do that every week. That's a lot. I said, nope. There's plenty to talk about, and there's plenty that we need to get out there and talk to others about. So we're going to be on every Saturday. And like a couple of these other shows, please tune in to Sister Carol and her Pink Sofa Talk, and Evadene and her new link, click, and like show, and of course Brother Forrest coming on at 6. So many blessings, everybody. Ashe, Amen, Namaste, all of it. Be well, take care of yourself, stay strong, and if you'd like to get in touch, I'd love to hear from you. Techseca, TECHSECA 23 @gmail.com. Peace and blessings.